Thank you for watching this video, subscribe to my channel, and in this video I want to talk about the parable of the unjust judge. You know, it's written in the New Testament there was this widow that went to a judge, a local judge, because she had people persecuting her and she wanted justice from the court of law. The judge was a pagan, so he was not in line with Christ. He didn't even bother to care much about other people, didn't want to listen to her. But this widow kept bothering that judge. One day the judge decided, you know what? I'm going to give justice for this woman, or else she'll keep bothering me. Well, people interpret this as you need to keep praying to get something. That's partly true, partly. I want to give some perspective on this parable. When Christ walked the earth in his human body, he lived under Roman rule. And under Roman rule, the local governors or the client kings had to make sure that Pax Romana, or Roman peace, was maintained in the world. And the judges who had sworn allegiance to the beast, because the Romans worshipped Apollo, whom according to scripture is the son of perdition, the Antichrist. Look at Revelation chapter 9 verse 11. They worship the beast, and so they have to enforce the rule of the beast. And the rule of the beast, there is relief and there is intoxication. But the relief part they need to maintain. So there must be societal relief, or what you can say public order. And if there is a widow who is being haunted by people that are bothering her, the Roman authorities need to deal with it. Because Satan can only trap people if there is some good in his system. If it's only bad and ugliness, nobody would take it. Nobody would fall for it. So, according to their own pagan cult, that judge needed to act on that woman's behalf. But the judge thought, you know what, it's just a woman, maybe an old woman who is being bothered by people. You know what, she's not that important. But this widow knew how the Roman system operated. She kept on bothering him and she kept opening her mouth. She was talking a lot about that the judge was not helping her. And you know what happens? After a while, people in the community will hear that, hold on a minute, we're under Roman rule. Rome calls itself the light of the world, but how can Rome call itself the light of the world if Rome is permitting this to happen in their empire? You have a woman who is obeying Roman law, who has been a productive citizen her whole life. Even if she wasn't, she's still a Roman citizen. She's born under Roman rule. She needs help. She's being bothered by people. Caesar's honor ought to be vindicated. So when she kept talking about it, people began to think, hold on a minute, why isn't Rome doing this? Why is she going to the judge? And the judge who represents Caesar isn't defending Caesar's honor. She's one of Caesar's subjects, isn't she? So she kept on doing this, and you know what's going to happen? This is making Rome look bad. And whose fault is it that Rome is being looked bad at? That judge. So what's going to happen? When more people begin to think, hold on a minute, this Roman rule thing is BS, because there is this vulnerable woman that asks for assistance, a legitimate cause, and Rome doesn't even defend her. So this is going to cause dissatisfaction against the Roman rule, and this itself will breed. This resentment will breed rebellion. So when this reaches the governor's ear, that there is a woman that needs help and the judge ain't giving it, the governor knows very well that if things go out of hand, Rome comes after him. So that governor is telling that judge, listen, dude. Of course, I'm paraphrasing now, listen, dude. If things get out of hand because you're not doing your job, you and your relatives are in big trouble. You know how Rome deals with people who are behaving treacherous like you do. So this judge that acted out of order, he realized that this widow knew what she was doing. It wasn't just a widow that was sad and kept on complaining and being hurt. No, she was a woman that used wisdom. She knew how the system worked, and she used the system against the system when the system was oppressing her. So that judge knew, okay, I need to behave now or else I brought this on myself. That woman had understanding. That woman in that parable of Christ had far more understanding than many people that claim to follow Christ today. That woman over there had more understanding than worldly people in general. Let me just say that plain over here. Okay? Because this woman knew what she was doing. I mean, think about it. If she thought, okay, this is a judge, the judge can throw me in jail. If he throws me in jail, nobody cares about me. If she would have behaved in fear, things would have continued. But she was bold enough to confront the injustice. She didn't do it in a cowardly manner by endangering herself, but she confronted the evil in face to face. She did it. And once she kept doing that, the darkness became frightened of her. And the darkness knew, I need to comply now or else. That's what happened. And that is how your attitude ought to be as a believer. Look, the world tells you to deal with stuff by either giving in and become like your oppressor. Are people doing that? Or they tell you to fight them violently, and that works, but it's short-lived, and afterwards you still have bad consequences, fatal side effects to deal with. Or there's another option: you just allow yourself to be destroyed out of a non-violent principle. Non-violent principles can be good, but there needs to be power behind it. But those are the ways the world teaches you to deal with stuff. But all those ways that the world teaches you to deal with stuff are all keeping you in the negative. This woman was mistreated by her community, and the judge, that the authority didn't want to help her. Man, she knew what she was doing. She used that same negative that was coming after her against that negative. She hunted the negative with the negative's own resources. And that frightens the darkness. And listen to what I'm saying to you now. The darkness has to be frightened of you. Not you are frightened of the darkness. The darkness has to be frightened of you. This was just a widow. And widows didn't have a high position back then. Because remember, you were dependent upon the income of your husband. If your husband ain't there, and relatives are not defending you, who else do you have? You had a welfare state at the time, but it was very selective. So this woman was quite vulnerable, but despite the vulnerabilities and despite the dangers she had around her, she faced the evil face to face in boldness. Not in cowardice like people in the world are telling you to do, in boldness. And the darkness bows down. Man, there's a lot I can say about this woman, but just listen to what I'm saying here. When you as a believer know who you are in Christ, when you truly realize who you are, that already frightens the enemy and all his demons. They are terrified of that. And the moment you begin to walk in baby steps, they are terrified. You're losing it. That's why you receive all that resistance. That's why suddenly the bank is acting grace towards you. That's why your boss is looking weird at you suddenly. That's why when you walk down the street, some people just look at you and there's something against you. They hate you on sight. Why? Because the darkness is frightened of you. And so they want to transfer this fright onto you so that you are frightened of them. I'm talking about those demons. So that you are paralyzed, so that you won't walk by faith. Look. Sometimes it happens that out of the blue, the bank or whatever company is going to charge you money. They will send debt collectors to you. Such things happen. I don't know if I have it with me here, but there are times they do that out of the blue, make a case that doesn't exist. Well, why are they doing that? If the case would go to the court of law, they would lose and they have to pay a fine. So why would they want to risk paying a fine if they know it's a fraud? Because that's how it works in the world. If you claim someone has to pay you money, they owe you money, but later the judge finds out it's a fraud, you are being criminally charged. So why would debt collectors risk being criminally charged by lying about you? They do that because they are pagans. They worship the beast, and they are assigned to target everyone that leaves the negative. Even if it's an unbeliever that's looking for the truth, if an unbeliever begins to move away from the negative thinking of the world, sooner or later that unbeliever will encounter Christ. So when an unbeliever begins to do that, those debt collectors will come after the individual. I'm telling you, it's a pact. It's not natural. It's not normal. But you've been conditioned to think it's normal. So that's not fair. This is Confronting. It's a well-known debt collector in the Netherlands. They've been harassing me. Every time they harass me, I throw that thing on the floor, I step on it, and I decree judgment on them. I decreed far more, but I'm not going into details here. And they stop bothering me. Now, so I told you, maybe also 1 week ago, a few videos back, I told you that there was something haunting me, and I asked you to pray for me. And many of you prayed, and within 2 days, the dark cloud disappeared. Well, these guys over here started bothering me again, wanted to drag me into the negative. But you know what, Flandering? It's not going to happen. That's how you ought to treat the enemy. Too many of you have been conditioned to respect darkness. You've been conditioned to be well-mannered towards darkness, and to even honor and defend and give a right to darkness to exist. No, the darkness has to be frightened of you. Hey, I'm just being blunt here to you. Some of you need to become much bolder in your thinking. When you're bold in your thinking, it will automatically reflect in your actions. True boldness. I'm not talking about that violent attitude of the world that they call boldness, no. Or just being honest, throwing things out. That's cowardice. I'm telling you, be bold in your thinking. Me? After I finish recording this video and uploading it, these guys are in big trouble. And not only them, all those pagans that keep bothering me. Look, if I need to pay something, if it's correct, I'll pay. Okay? I'm not going to cheat nor steal from people. But don't come with a case to me that doesn't add up. And if you claim I need to pay something, give a justification. And if I email you and ask you for documents to justify it, you better have documents ready to send me to justify what you're doing. These guys, they used to claim I need to pay them stuff, but they didn't have the documents. But they want to send me to court. Didn't happen. And it's not going to happen either. Look, this debt collecting thing, it's paganism. It's beast worship. And it's used especially on those that follow Christ. Now, there are more things being done on God's people that they don't realize is an assault of the enemy. But this thing over here is something that's happening too often with believers. So I'm telling you, be like that non-Syrophoenician woman. Be like that widow that confronted the darkness in boldness. Do that. Agree with Christ and be at peace.